I don't think anyone can fully prepare you for such a big shift in your life, like starting over. It took almost a year for me to make this move. And there were so many moments, guys, I felt like giving up. I would cry myself to sleep. I'd be like, you are going to stand out. Get used to it. Get used to being stared at. Get used to having random questions asked.
I wanna be my dream girl, doing everything I've never seen girl, being everything I wanna be girl, if I love myself.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sonia D, and today we are doing things a bit differently. I know it's been a while since I did a sit-down video with you guys, and honestly that's because life has been lifing. And for those of you who are returning subscribers, welcome back, family. It's so good to have you here. Thank you for 133 subscribers, excuse me. And for those who've just joined, this is your first time watching, welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button so you always know when we're meeting up. And guys, let's get to 500. So like, comment, share, please. It gets the traction of the videos and puts it in front of people who need it. Okay, so back to the topic at hand. Sorry guys, I'm using my hands right now. I still need to get a stand for my phone. Until then, this will have to be good enough. I'm still setting myself up here, but yeah, I just thought, I've been getting a lot of questions from family, friends, and some people online about, how are you doing? How have you settled in? If you haven't watched my videos yet, I share about, leaving Zimbabwe. I was living in Harare, Zimbabwe for about 2.5 years, and I left in February this year. And I share about my move to the Czech Republic and, first few days and all of that. So I'm grateful for people who've been wanting to know how it's going, how I'm settling in. And I honestly didn't know how best to answer that question. So I would just say it's going well, it's going okay. Because, and we'll get into this in this video, it's really, I don't think anyone can fully prepare you for such a big shift in your life. Like starting over, I'm in my late 30s. I moved to a new country, a new city, a new continent. So new culture, new way of doing things, new way of living, new currency, just everything is new. So, no one has been in my shoes. They don't know my background. They haven't been a part of my own process, growth, and otherwise. They don't have my personality, my unique personality. They don't belong to my unique family structure, and all of that. So it's difficult for someone to fully equip me because they don't have all those details at hand. However, I do feel it's useful to learn from other people's perspectives. Before I moved here, I watched a lot of content from some of my favorite YouTubers that prepared me for my move and helped me to make good decisions about it. So I'm really hoping this will help someone who wants to do the same, because I feel like we need more Africans, more Black people who share their experiences of making such moves, deciding to start over in their lives in whatever capacity, whatever form, especially moving to a different continent, to Europe, and what you can sort of expect. It'll be different, like I said, for everybody, but there are some general tips and experiences that are useful. Right, so that's what we're going to get into today in today's video. I will share with you, I've got my paper here as usual. I have 6 things or 6 pointers about the reality of living in the Czech Republic and basically of moving to Europe as an African, starting over later in life. Okay. Point number 1, something that is so key as you are thinking of moving to Europe as an African and just starting your life over in a new place is you need to have a good support system. I cannot emphasize this enough. For me, I had my little sister. She's been living in the Czech Republic for the last 5 years. So that's what made my decision easier. I did try to apply to other countries in the Central Europe bloc because I just wanted to be in that area, in that space. And it's a bit simpler for us as Africans to enter Europe there, quite honestly. And also I have a lot of friends and family who live within Central Europe. So when I decided to apply or to make moves to move to Europe, Czech Republic was definitely top of my list, and specifically Prague, because that is where my sister lived. So yeah, I'm grateful. I'm so thankful that it worked out, that I moved here. I honestly don't know what I would have done without my sister. Firstly, I honestly don't know what I would have done without all the lovely people who rallied to help support me in raising funds in some capacity to be able to make this move. I had raised my own, but I needed to top up on them, and that was such a good move. I don't think I would have been able to completely start up if I didn't do that. So if you need it, ask for help. Asking for help was very difficult for me, and it was a test of how much I wanted to do this. And I'm glad I did, because I'm the one who generally is always helping other people, but I'm learning to lean more on other people. So yeah, support for me looked like financial support from well-meaning friends and families and even strangers, as well as emotional support, and that especially came from my sister and her husband. Guys, through this process, and I might do a video on this separately. Actually, I will, because someone asked me to do a video on this, but it took almost a year for me to make this move. And there were so many moments, guys, I felt like giving up. I would cry myself to sleep. I'd be like, this is not going to happen. Honestly, even though in my gut I knew it was what I wanted, and I had a sense that that's where life was taking me, there was just that room of like, it might not, because there is still room for it might not. And so you need people you can talk to, you can vent to, you can cry to, who've also been through this process. My sister had been through this. I had other friends, and like I said, YouTubers I found who shared their experience. So you need people you can talk to who can encourage you, because you will have moments of doubt. And even when you get on the ground, I'm so grateful I was able to stay with my sister and her husband for the first 2+ months while I was here. Again, I don't think I would have made it, because they helped me to navigate things like the transport system, getting a cell phone line. Sorry guys, my eye is hurting me. Anyway, getting a cell phone line, navigating the transport system, because here, English is like, guys, people here speak their language, and they're proud of it. So everything is Czech. Even I'll give you an example. To get my phone contract, I had to go with my brother-in-law, and he had to call, because the operators, they're trained to only speak in Czech. Even if they understand English, legally they have to use Czech. I'm not sure what is behind that. So you need to do your homework before you land where you want to land, but specifically in Czech Republic, you need someone on the ground who speaks the language, who has an idea of the system to help you. And like I said, for me, that was my sister and my brother-in-law, and an agency that they found to work with me, because things aren't always so clear. So you just need to be able to do your homework and make sure you have people who can guide you. So good support system. Number 2, as with all relationships, whether relationships with people, with things, with experiences, there is a honeymoon phase when you initially move to the Czech Republic, or just in general. For me, I'm speaking about my experience of coming to the Czech Republic, so please just remember that. But in general, there is a honeymoon phase when you initially move, but reality sets in eventually. So I would say the first 1 to 1.5 months, I was in heaven, guys. Because, like I said, this was a move I had been working on for the last almost a year, and I really wanted it. You know, at some point I did have to release it, and that's a key point to make. If you're wanting to make a major shift in your life, if you're wanting to manifest something, a dream, into your life in whatever capacity, whether it's relationship, a job, moving, at some point you will need to release it. You will need to be okay with it not coming to pass. So when I say I really wanted it to come to pass, I had to reach a point where I was not desperate, where I would be okay if it did not come to pass. Yes, I would be sad and it would be heartbreaking for a while, but I could get over it and do something else or try again in another way, right? So by the time I came, guys, I had been doing visualization techniques and, you know, all this stuff to be able to, so essentially I had lived this dream visually, mentally, on an emotional frequency before it was a physical reality. So by the time I moved here physically, it was heaven, guys. It was like, you know, pinch me moments. Like I could not believe, because I'd seen it in my mind's eye, walking the streets of Prague, being with my sister, hugging her, having meals with her and her husband, and traveling. You know, thankfully I had visited Prague and Czech Republic before twice, but so that helped. But you know, when you've been dreaming of something for so long, when it finally happens, you feel so amazing. It's so unreal to you. And so the first few weeks or months feel like heaven. You're on cloud number 9, and you just see things through rose-colored glasses, right? And then at some point, reality sets in, and you start to notice things that bother you about being in this place, about finally, and this is something we don't talk about. I was speaking about this with a friend, Larissa, and just sharing, because she made a major move a few years ago in terms of her location and her job. And it's not that I was depressed or like regretting my decision to move here or anything like that. And I remember the break in my honeymoon phase with the Czech Republic happened probably just before I moved into my apartment. So I'll say 2+ months into being here. And that's because now I was really living, I was standing on my own, because I had been staying with my sister and her husband, like I said, navigating life essentially on my own. And no one really speaks about your dream coming at a cost, or, you know, having your dream, but it not meaning that things will be perfect. So I think it's great to have that emotional rush, that initial joy and excitement of finally living your dream. However, just like with a child, it needs taking care of. So there's the reality of the poop, of the throwing up and crying, waking up in the middle of the night, that you will need to tend to. So just a heads up, there will be, and I remember reading about this, when you move to a new country with a new culture, especially because it's such a huge culture shift from where I was coming from. When you make that kind of a move, there will initially be a honeymoon phase. It'll feel great because you're experiencing stuff for the first time, you know, things that are very different from where you come from. Public transport is very different here. It's very accessible, very affordable. You know, aesthetically, I love the way things are set up here. Sorry, guys. Next door neighbor's dog. I hope you can still hear me. Aesthetically, I love the historic nature of the city. You know, I love access to many forms of entertainment that I didn't necessarily have where I was coming from. Things like that. So, you know, you have all these things that you're taking in, and it's amazing. However, that is not sustainable, because you need to live here and now. And truth is, life is a balance, negative and positive. You know, I put that in air quotes because I don't think either is good or bad. It's just, it is what it is. It's good, it works in your favor. But you will have to experience both. So just be warned, You will go through that initial honeymoon phase. Reality will set in though, and that is where you need to lean more on your support system, but also internally keep talking to yourself a good talk about why you're here. Point number 3, and it's, stems from my very first point. Money talks when you move to Europe, when you make a major shift in life and you are moving continents, probably even countries and even cities, but especially coming from Africa, moving to Europe, save that money. Like I said, I had saved money and I was warned that I needed a buffer, because you come here and there's so many things that you cannot foresee or account for that you will need to pay for. I can't tell you specifics because it'll be different based on the reason you move, because you can move for study, you can move for work and otherwise. But what I will tell you is there is a process. You will need to go and fulfill certain legal requirements. That costs money. You might need to consult with people to help you do that. That costs money. You will need to travel to do some of these things. That costs money. You will need to eat. You will need a place to live, unless you're blessed to have people take you in like I did. But even then, it costs money. You just need to save money. Make sure you have a good buffer for at least the first 3 months. Because things will come up that you cannot account for. So that's really, really important. Remember that. Point number 4 is, as much as you will experience the honeymoon phase when you first move, at the same time, it's such a weird dynamic, but at the same time, you will feel all over the place until you finally settled into your new life. And I think that time frame will be different for different people. For me, it's taken about 3 months plus for me to finally feel grounded. And that's because, like I said before, there's so much that you need to get through. You need to be registered here legally. You need to go to the different departments to get what you need to get. You're based on, again, like I said, if you've come for studies or for work, for you to be legally in the country, you need certain cards and documents. And you will need to adjust to the system here. Like I said, transport, how things work. You'll need to adjust to the currency, the value of it, what it gets you and what it doesn't. You'll need to adjust to the culture, the people around you, the food. That can seem very simple, but it will impact you because you've built a system where you're coming from. You're used to eating certain things. You're used to going to certain places to get certain things for yourself. You're used to having certain people around you. You're used to doing things in a certain way. You're comfortable. And when you move to make such a major shift, and especially I will say for myself, later on in life, later in your 30s, where you've become maybe more set in your ways, you really will be tested, and it will feel a bit jarring, like you're being shaken, right? And what I will say is give it time. Just hold out on that process. And again, I think because I listened to YouTubers before I came who moved here, who gave their experiences of being here and having my sister and all of that to speak to, it helped prepare me mentally. And I think maybe I might have read up about this, but I just intrinsically, and maybe the waiting process for me to actually get here, that whole process of applying to get here, guys, was wild. And I went through so many emotions, ups and downs. By the end of it, I feel like that trained me for my experience of settling down here. Because then I had sort of been through it, although for different reasons, but it helped me to realize that if I just hold on, if I remember why I'm doing this, and trust the process, I will be okay. This too shall pass. This is not how I will feel. This is not my reality forever. It's just something I have to go through, pass through. When you're going into a new season, autumn, into spring, spring into summer, summer into winter, all of that, there's certain things that need to take place. You know, leaves need to fall. There's a wind that comes in and brings in a new season sometimes. There's rain that comes in and brings in a new season. And it's important to look at your experience in that way. It's a new season, so certain elements in your life will be impacted quite rigorously, and it will feel uncomfortable. But understand that life is blowing out what you no longer need and making space for your new. So just hold it out. You know, I used a lot of affirmations when I could. I continue to have good conversations with my support system. And I continue to practice grace with myself. And also just look for enjoyable moments, no matter how small, in my day. And connecting with nature was so big for me. They call it a forest here. It is a forest basically, but there are forests near a lot of the apartments, and that helped me connecting with nature. It's something I used to do back home. So remembering things that ground you from where you came from and bringing them here will help you go through that initial period of feeling all over the place, whatever that looks like. For me, like I said, it was being in nature, meditation, affirmations, and EFT tapping, and again recognizing that I would not be able to do those things to the capacity that I was able to where I came from, because I was still in limbo. I wasn't in my own space, so I needed to respect that. Number 5, the reality of moving to Europe as an African, specifically to the Czech Republic for me, is that you are going to stand out. Get used to it. Get used to being stared at. Get used to having random questions asked. Things like that, you know. And honestly, this point will affect you based on your perspective in life. And that can be impacted by, you know, maybe what you're going through at that time, how you're feeling physically, emotionally. But I just encourage you to remember, especially here in the Czech Republic, I think a lot of people here, honestly, it's sort of and not knowing. They just are not exposed, and I don't know if that's an excuse, but they're just not exposed to people of color, to Black people, Africans, as much as we are to them. So they will stare because they have questions. They don't see people like you and me every day. And, you know, a lot of them are looking in awe. They're just like, wow, because, guys, I was dressing the way I would dress at home, wearing my bright colors, wearing my outfits and my hair, and it's different for them, and they love it, you know, they admire it. And they're curious about it. And, you know, I think at some point I will do a video on this, you know, my likes and dislikes of being here, but I just wanted to give myself a bit more time to be here. So that is something I'll probably do a little later on. But yeah, just get used to being different, to being the one who stands out. And I would encourage you to just choose to have a more positive perspective on it. Otherwise, it's going to drive you crazy and make you mad for no reason, which I also went through. Then last but definitely not least is, at some point, you are going to question the reason why you moved. And I think I've already touched on this in the video, but there are things that are going to happen, incidences that you will have, thoughts that will invade your mind, things that will be said to you, done to you, that will make you wonder if you did make the right choice. However, I will say, make sure before you move, your why is crystal clear to you, and make sure it's quite intrinsic. Because if you're moving for quite flimsy reasons, or, you know, more external based reasons, maybe like based on other people's opinions and things like that, or it's what everybody else is doing or should do, that may not hold you well. So be sure to interrogate why you want to make such a move, and be clear on your own reasons. And I really believe that's probably the reason why it took almost a year for me to move. I had to get very clear on it. It had to emanate from within, because you will need to remind yourself at some point. And I'll be honest, I haven't questioned my decision all that much, maybe once or twice, if at all. And it's been very brief, very small questionings. And I think that's normal. That's a normal part of life. But what did get me through those moments was remembering why I was doing this. And for me, if you've been here long enough, if you've watched some of my other videos, my why was that I had been living my life for others for so long. As a firstborn daughter in an African household, maybe you can relate, we do things for others for a majority of our lives. And I woke up at some point in 2023 at the top, and I decided I wanted to do life for me. And I asked myself what that looked like, and it led me here for personal reasons, which I will not get into here. But have your reasons, write them out, read them constantly. I had that. And have one or two people who know and can encourage and remind you of that. And yeah, just look for the reasons almost every day as to why you're here. Okay guys, so that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching up till this point. I hope it was helpful. Please, like I said, if you found it useful, if you enjoyed listening to this, like this video, comment, share. If you found this video useful, guys, like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Guys, when I used to hear YouTubers say that, I didn't understand, but now I get it. I need you, to help so that more of us can see this information. And I know there are people out there who are looking for it, because I was once looking for this. So let's help one another out, and please just share. Even if you don't end up watching all of my videos, if you do feel this specific one is useful for someone, please share it with them and drop me a comment. Let me know if this is useful. Creating content can feel quite lonely. You never know if it's helpful to people, so it really helps. I'm really grateful for you guys when you comment and you tell me this was really great, you enjoyed watching it. So take care of yourselves, guys. And until next time, remember, life is beautiful and you have time. Cheers.
I wanna be my dream girl, doing everything I've never seen.